Hello juniors and welcome to programming. For this video, we'll be going through our final project, Project 5, which is data manipulation. So here's the module. You have the Project 5 video, which is the one you're watching currently, the Project 5 activity prompt, which is where you'll actually be submitting the assignment, and it has the activity prompt here, which is the one I'm looking at, as well as the sample text that we'll use for this project and the two resources that we'll have to understand for this project. So, Project 5, Data Manipulation. This is our fifth and final project. So let's scroll down to our steps and other instructions. So let's remind ourselves of the programming process. There's the objective, pseudocode, and code. The objective is the sentence summary and to-do list. Pseudocode is the more in-depth to-do list structured like a program. And then the code is the actual code of the program that we are going to write. You are going to do the pseudocode and the code completely by yourself. And then you're going to do the objective. We're going to give you that, just like all of our other projects. So for our overview, the objective is what we'll give you. The need to know is the section that we'll cover during this video. Your task, and then pseudocode. So jumping into Project 5, Data Manipulation. The objective of this program is to make a program that can take any TXT file and reverse each word and put them back in the same order. So you're only reversing the word, not the whole sentence. So if the sentence was the dog ran, it would be EHT space GOD space NAR. You're reversing each word individually instead of ran the dog or ran dog the. So here's the steps for the actual program. First, create a function that can reverse any word. It should have a parameter of one string. It should take in one string as a parameter and return that string in reverse. Then create a loop that will turn each word in a list into the reverse. Create a function that reads a .txt file and saves each word as an item in a list. The function should have a parameter that is the name of the txt and should return the list of all the words from the file. So basically, this will be a function that takes in the name of a txt. So it'll have a string parameter that brings in the name of the txt. Then it'll manipulate that txt. It'll read all of the words, save each word in the txt as an item in a list, and then it'll return that whole list as a file. Then the next step, or another step you'll have to do, remember these are not in order. So you know that these functions are going to be at the top because that's how functions work. The next function is create a function that writes the list of reverse words into a new txt file. So you'll have to take a parameter that is the list. So you'll have to take that list in as a parameter and write each item in that list to a new txt file. Then you're going to use all these functions to do the following. You're going to read the words from a txt, convert those words to the reverse form with a loop and the reverse function, and then you're going to write the words in a new txt. So all of this stuff above helps you to do this process. So all the function is going to do is take a txt, reverse the words, and write it in a new txt. Now, as you can tell, this is a very complex project, and you're going to have to do that all on your own. So without any pseudocode from us, you're just going to take this objective and turn it into pseudocode, and then turn that pseudocode into code. So let's go through just an example of what it's going to do, just so that you have some background. So an example task, if the text in the document said, "Hello world, have a good day," Instead, it would become the backwards version. So backwards version of hello, backwards version of world, and then all the way down. There won't um there won't be these parentheses, and I'll cover that in this. Assumptions about the text file. So you can assume the following. The file won't have periods or commas or anything like that. All of the words will only be separated by spaces. So no commas, no colons, no nothing. And the file can have multiple lines. So you need to assume when you're making this function that reads the txt, you got to assume that it has multiple lines. So you have to make sure that your program accounts for that. So there's a couple of things that you need to know. You're going to need to understand reading and writing, especially for this, and libraries and debugging and everything that we've covered so far. Oops. Next, what you're going to need to understand is dot split and this bracket, ::, -1 bracket. So let's actually go into Python and start using them. So I have my data manipulation project folder. I'm going to go File, New, Python module, and just make a practice so that we can go through these different things together. So let's go over dot split. What this does is you add this to a string to split the string into individual parts by whatever you put in the parentheses. So that doesn't really make a lot of sense, but let's make an example. String equals this is a sentence. So we have this sentence, right? If we do list equals string dot split, and we split by a space, we put a space character in between these parentheses or in between these quotations, and then we print out this list. Let's run this file or run as. It broke up this string. So let's print both of these so that you can see the difference. So one of these is printing the string and one of these is printing the list. This is the string, this is the list. It broke this string into its individual words. It broke it by the spaces. So each word is its own item in the list. So now that we understand that this dot split is splitting up this sentence by lines. That's all this dot split does. This function just splits up a string by the spaces. When we understand, or when we remember that our assumption, all the words will be separated by one space or by a space, we know that we'll be able to use this dot split in our actual thing. So when we're talking about that function, the function of the returning a list of all the words from a file, you're getting this file and you're returning all the words. Well, we know if we're talking about this file, let's say we have this file that we opened. I'm not going to put anything, but let's say we open this file. We know how to read the lines, or let's just call this lines. We know how to read the lines of the file by just doing read lines, and that gives us a list of all the lines. So here's a list of all the lines. Now if we say for x in lines, for each line, or for each item in the lines, each item is going to be its own line, so we can split it. So we can say line words equals x dot split by space. So then this will give us a list of all the words on one line, because x is just one of the items within lines. So we'll split this, and then we'll have another list, and we'll make it empty out here. We'll say all words. We'll make this empty list, and then we can just add the line words to it. So now what this does is this opens a file. Let's add some space. This opens a file, and it actually doesn't because I don't have a file in there, but we're going to assume that this opens a file. It reads all the lines in there, and it makes this empty list. And what it does is it goes line by line through this list, and it splits the words. It splits the sentences by words. And then all the words are added together each line. So it adds each line together, because we know that this is a loop that goes through one by one by one. So it'll add each line of words as it completes it. So let's practice with this. We know that this practice is in my data manipulation, which has this sample txt. If we open this up, this is the same sample that we have on here that you can use to practice your program and make sure that it works. Notice there's no commas, colons, decimals, any of that. That's all not there. But if we go back to this, and let's actually put the name, we'll put sample.txt, and we'll put open as read, because we don't need to write to it, we're just reading it. And if we run this, oh, we never printed out. Let's, at the end of this, we'll print all words. And then let's run this. Ta-da! This is the sample text document, and notice that document has an N on there because that /N, that new line, because it has that new line and we don't get rid of that. But you can see that it does the whole thing. So I would look at these lines of code. This is almost identical to what you're going to have inside of this function to read the function and split all of the line, or all of the words by all the lines. So you use read lines to split the file by lines, and you use this dot split to split each line by the word that it has, putting the space in there as the character that it can use to split by. The next thing we need to cover is this bracket : ::1. So this is a really weird looking thing. All it does is it allows us to reverse a string. So if we put a string, we say equals word, and then we say x equals string reversed, then we can say print x and run it, and it'll print the reverse of x. So again, going back to our objective, when we're making a function that reverses any word, we're going to use this to reverse that word, and then we'll use the return statement to return it. So these are the two things you'll be using, the reverse word and the dot split, to complete your actual project. And that you'll use within these functions. So we've gotten through the need to know. Let's talk about your task. Your task is to 1, create pseudocode for the project by yourself, and then 2, code the project using the objective and your pseudocode. You must make a starting multi-line comment on the top of your program that says what the program does and who the author is. You also need comments around each function that explains what it does, the parameters, and what it returns. So to complete the project, you'll follow this process. Make a PyDev project called data manipulation, make a .py called data manipulation, write the starting comment, write the pseudocode, code the projects, make sure you go back through and write the function comments, or do it as you're going. Run the project and check for bugs. This can be checked with error lines or when your project doesn't do what it's supposed to. And then submit the project on GitHub. You will be graded on the following. You have 1 point for the starting comment, 1 point for each function comment, 1 point for each function completed correctly, 1 point for each project completed, or 1 point for the project completing its job, doing what it's supposed to do, 1 point for the project being able to run, and then 1 point for the project being submitted on GitHub properly. Again, you're going to code the pseudocode by yourself. So make sure to make that .py, and the first thing you're going to do is go down this objective and write pseudocode for it. You have all the previous projects that you can look at as examples of how to make pseudocode from objectives. Notice that our pseudocode is always very, very detailed. So make sure that your pseudocode is very, very detailed. It needs to be more detailed than this objective. And there's a lot written here, so your pseudocode better have a lot written as well. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to us. Otherwise, juniors, I will see you later.